This is Gail Morgan thanking you for watching the Libertarian Counterpoint each Thursday at 8 p.m. Channel 17 on Comcast, on YouTube, and on Facebook.
I'm James Just, and welcome to Libertarian Counterpoint. With me today is Nicholas Wildstar out of Fresno. Nicholas, I wanted to talk to you today because I was at my grocery store the other day collecting groceries, and we're all standing in line with these new social distancing rules. So there's like 8 people in line, and it goes all the way around to the back of the store, right? Because it's a relatively small Smart and Final. And there's a tension in the air. You know, there's a guy sitting on his phone. He kind of wanders out of a line with his wife. He goes out with his wife, and he wanders a little bit out of line, comes back in, and some guy goes, "Hey, the line's back here." There's a strange tension in my neighborhood that hasn't existed before.
Yeah.
And so I was going, you know, I wonder what it's like in other places. Hey, let's talk to Nicholas, because Nicholas is a man of the streets.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're one of the few people like me who actually, you know, go out and walk the streets and talk to people. And so I wanted to talk to you and see, how is Fresno going?
Fresno has been reacting a bit of the same way. I mean, it's odd how the majority of the public has wholeheartedly embraced this like herd-like mentality where we feel like we must separate from each other. And if you are too close, you know, within the vicinity, now you're invading their personal space, and now you're a danger. You know, they've made that now kind of like the premise on how people engage with each other, is they see each other as a threat now. I mean, if you're not wearing a mask, they're looking at you like you're crazy, and then when you're wearing one of these masks, you know,
yeah,
they're still looking at you like you're crazy. So I mean, you can't win for losing now. But yeah, it is sad because I've gone out to several, you know, grocery stores such as yourself, and have seen the new protocols put in place where they have, you know, painted lines on the floor, and now all of a sudden they have, you know, glass between you and the cashier, and they have armed security guards at the doors. I mean, it's just quickly overnight become a police state. And we're seeing more and more applications of that on not only a nationwide scale, but on a worldwide scale. It's scared to see it happen. So I'm encouraging everybody to definitely pay attention to what's happening to your freedoms and liberties, your God-given, you know, natural rights. Whether you believe in God or not, you were born with these natural rights that are now being infringed upon and threatened. So it's up to us to take it upon ourselves to defend them.
Yeah, they're not even making any sense. Like you saw the other day, the arrest of that canoer, the paddler out in the ocean. The guy's by himself in the ocean, and they took 2 cops to go arrest him. You know, no, wait a minute. The guy was literally hurting nobody. He had no potential of harming a single person. And then you took 2 people, and you've actually created the conditions where you're endangering people. Exactly.
I mean, it's absurd that we now have made public places where you can be completely isolated, like you said, in the middle of the ocean of all places, and now have made that unlawful. You know, I seen a video where a guy was jogging on the beach by himself. Nobody around because, you know, nobody's on the beaches right now. And the cop started chasing him. And the guy outran the cop. It was just like, hi, you know. Thank God he did. But yeah, the cop that was chasing him had no protective wear on, no mask, no gloves. And it's crazy that we're seeing, you know, arrests of people out in the public with these law enforcement personnel not even abiding by the laws themselves. So quickly overnight, we have new laws, new rules being imposed upon us that we must abide by, comply or die, pretty much, or end up in jail at least. But they're enforcing these rules upon us, and they're using physical force to do so. I mean, you know, to subdue the guy on the beach, they had to chase him down. They also were not wearing protective wear. I seen a video out in Florida where some spring breakers were out at the beach in Miami Beach, and they were chased away by, I believe, more than a dozen police officers. None of them were wearing protective wear. 3 of them in the video assaulted some of the party goers and basically physically assaulted them and arrested them. But none of them were wearing protective wear, and we're seeing the application of the police state upon we the people, you know?
Yeah, and we also exposed some sexism in the policing. I saw the other day there was a family, a husband, a wife, and a daughter. We're out playing wiffle ball, and who did they handcuff and arrest? It was the father. The wife was out there was just as violating the law as the man was, yeah. But it was the man that they arrested.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what's going on because they are emptying the prisons with certain, I guess, violators of laws, supposed criminals, but they're emptying the prisons to put certain other people in there. What I'm thinking is they're hoping that the people that they put in prison, because now they are able to, hold you in jail indefinitely, thanks to the NDAA and further applications of these COVID-19 rules, that they can hold you indefinitely. And unless you have an attorney and, can pay bail and get out of jail, you're going to be sitting in jail because they aren't even operating a court system right now. So there aren't any judges there. There aren't any prosecutors. There's nobody looking over cases. So pretty much the police are judge, executioner, and jury, I guess, or judge, jury, and executioner, like Judge Dredd. And the video that you're talking about, he was a former police officer himself, a former state trooper. So, and it's sad that also on the sexist side, we're seeing, I guess, people that are speaking out. A lot of celebrities. We have actresses such as, I forgot her name, but the actress that was in Ant-Woman or Ant-Man, she was Ant-Woman pretty much, or the Wasp, but the actress that played in that movie, as well as a few other singers, females. There was a female broadcaster on Fox News that was ousted because they are speaking against the narrative, and it's sad that we're seeing more women being targeted on that side. But then when it comes to, action, they're targeting the men,
Yeah, it's a strange time we're living in. You wonder how we allowed Japanese to get interned, and we're watching exactly how it happened right now. We're sitting here watching the process of how that happened.
Yeah, sadly. I mean, I personally, I'm not sure about yourself, but libertarians have known about FEMA camps and have spoken outwardly about them for a long time. I know personally I have, but these FEMA camps have existed. They had been set up ever since 9/11, and situations like Hurricane Katrina even further exacerbated the situation, where they now have armed personnel at these centers, these disaster centers that they're calling them, and now they're creating even more of them. They just created one here in Fresno. They were going to set up, I believe, 250 emergency beds, like I guess an impromptu hospital at the fairgrounds, but the state turned it away. I guess there was some a lawful issue, but the convention center of all places said, yes, it's okay to have it here. So our convention center now is being used as an emergency center where there are National Guardsmen down there. So I'm planning on going down there and making a video of this myself so I can show you guys out there what's going on. So be sure to, of course, check out my YouTube channel. I'm going to be sharing those videos and on my social media as well.
Yeah, no, I find this all very disturbing because I noticed a couple weeks ago, you'd put back on your mask that you had shown us earlier. Return back to your beginning activist roots when you first kind of came to California, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've lived in California since 1999, so but I started donning the mask around 2008, 2007, 2008. I saw the movie V for Vendetta. If you haven't seen that movie, please see it now. But it was a very inspirational film. It moved me in many ways, especially after 9/11 and starting to see the oppressive nature of our government on our day-to-day lives, and the infringement of the, the Patriot Act upon, our personal information now being readily accessible to the government. We have institutions that have been created because of that, like the NSA, that is now embedded into our society. So we need to get rid of it. The TSA also has been a product of that. But V for Vendetta, if you haven't seen that movie, please do see it. The guy the main character in the film wears this mask, and his name is V. So I think it's time we start expressing some vigilance and some resilience against the oppressive regime that is being built up here. I mean, we created the government, so we're to blame. If it gets out of control and we're not holding it accountable, that's because we're allowing it to oppress us. And in the movie, of course, they talk about fighting against that and everybody rising up. And at the end of the movie, I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but a lot of people are inspired to do that. And that's what I feel like is necessary right now. So in, I guess, respect to the film, as well as solidarity to those out there that want to fight against, what's going on in the world. Pick up your mask, hit the streets.
Yeah,
do what we need to do.
Yeah, it's a symbolism thing. It's like, there's a meaning behind the mask. It's not just the mask that's behind you. There's a resilience about, no, our government has gone too far. We have allowed it, so we must now take it back.
Exactly.
And it's our responsibility. It's to do it. And, for those of us who have been voting against the grain for a long time, we can, well, maybe we haven't done it enough to get our viewpoint out there. We haven't done it right way. We have to accept responsibility for ourselves. Even if we've done the best we can, well, we obviously haven't done it well enough, and so we have to get back to work. And so that's what we try to do up here. But it's hard, right? It's a hard slog to be continuously driving towards basic human rights every single day.
It's crazy that freedom would be a hard sell, in a free country.
Yeah.
But the idea that law enforcers must break the law to enforce the law has become a state of mind that most people accept. And it's not ideal to the characteristic of the resilient nature of who we are as Americans, and to be a patriot, we must be fighting against tyranny in all shapes and forms. Even if it's our own government, we should love our country. We don't have to love our government, No. So we need to start showing more love for country more than ever.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating to me because I've watched some of the same people who spent the last 3 years complain about a rising tide of fascism are sitting now are applauding with essentially the tools of fascism being imposed.
Right, exactly.
I had a guy on MSNBC, was watching an MSNBC quote with Rachel Maddow the other day, and she had a doctor on who said that we need to go test everybody every day for their temperature, and anybody with a temperature needs to go sent to a healthcare camp.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And these are the same people who are going like, these awful immigrant camps are somehow immoral. Yeah. But sending every American to a healthcare camp because you have a fever is fine. Where are these people? Do they have any
forcing people to get tested? It's like, and it's crazy. You're right. We're seeing it be spoken of on the left, on the extreme left, on the right, extreme right, and even people in the center. I've heard people in libertarian circles support staying home, of all things. And it's just sad that we see people from whatever political class, whatever financial class. Now you've been separated by essential and non-essential, so we've seen these further division of people happening at the same time. And it's kind of like a micro dissection, if you will. And government is or the people that crafted this whole social experiment called civilization are very crafty in, and knowing how we work as human beings. There's been tons of studies over time. And so we, if anything, got to start making up ground by uniting, putting aside any and all differences that we may have, whatever your race may be, whatever your sexual, orientation may be, or whatever the case may be. People that have prejudice against those things, put it all aside, unite, see what's going on. We can get rid of, the people that are in charge, because they're still just a group of people. They're not,
not gods, they're just people. They put their pants on and they educate themselves just like the rest of us. They're just people.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see and touch those people, unlike God, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to do something about it, there they are, and we can remove them. And they're assuming in a position in society that's not wanted. They should not be the authoritarian over our day-to-day lives. They should not be the oppressor of our expression of our freedoms and liberties. We should be able to go outside and go to a park or a beach or, whatever the case may be. If we want to socially distance each other away from each other, then so be it. It should be voluntary. And we've gotten away from a voluntary society to where, totalitarianism is more embraced. So I again encourage anyone and everyone out there to learn about libertarianism, because it definitely could work right now. We need some of that. So I'm asking everybody to actually boycott the vote. Don't vote for a Republican or Democrat. We need to get away from the two-party system. Vote for a libertarian, vote for a Green Party candidate, vote for an independent candidate, vote for somebody else. Just these guys got to go. And if we want to civilly and peacefully get rid of them, this is a way to do it.
And you only need to do it one cycle. You
Exactly.
vote them all out one cycle, you'll send the message clear, and
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. Is
I'm hoping you
my local election that there's enough people that are willing to say, it's enough is enough, and we're willing to try something different.
Right.
And I'm trying to take people along that journey with me. Trying to be as real and as human as possible. It's like, no, I'm not some far off person. I'm just like everybody else. I started washing dishes at 14. Just like everybody else in
working class. We are the representatives of the everyday people, because we are everyday people, and it's
we didn't spend our lives trying to designing our lives to be a politician. We kind of politics came to me late in life. You're a little earlier in life, but still.
But we acted on what we've learned about the bad side of politics. You know what I mean? I think that's what it's all about. No matter what your political idealism may be, put it all aside. Realize that your natural rights to just live a free and happy life right now is being dictated by others. Okay,
by other people, with different views on life than you.
Yeah, with different views on life, and I mean, that is not the way this country is supposed to be. We're not a democracy. So just if one person in the world said it was not okay, that's one person enough to say it's not okay for everyone else. And that's the way America is supposed to be. That's why we're a republic. We have a book of rules. We elect certain representatives to swear to uphold that oath. And you're doing your best to do exactly that. So I hope people in your district hear you out and get you into office, because it is a numbers game. I tell people that all the time. Because they say, oh, you're going to take the votes away from the Republicans or the Democrats, or help them win. Well, that's the point. It's a competition. The Republicans are going to take votes.
They're taking votes from me.
Republicans, exactly. So our goal is to take votes from both of them and get all of those people that don't want to vote or are feeling disenfranchised, or, whatever the case may be. We want those groups of people because the numbers show that there's more of them than them. You see what I'm saying? We can break the two-party system just by collectively coming together with the numbers that we have and using that voting block to override theirs. So it's simple mathematics. All you got to do is vote Libertarian, vote third party, vote for somebody else, vote for another party other than the two-party system, and see what happens,
Yeah, well, we don't actually have a two-party system. The two parties have manipulated the system to create it so they're the two parties in power, but that doesn't make it a two-party system. Exactly. I mean, George Washington, which is kind of my political idol, if you actually have one, is George Washington, the man who walked away, right? That's
no political party.
Stay away from political parties. I know you're not going to, but stay away from political parties.
Exactly. The last few warnings to all Americans.
Stay away from political parties. You won't, but stay away from them.
Right. This was fine and dandy, but you guys.
And there's a reason for it, because he knew that parties would become more important than people, and we're seeing that play out here in California with things like AB5, or where their political ideology is more important than the fact that they're hurting tens of thousands of freelance workers and gig workers. The fact that they're being hurt, they're now being we're being called labor brokers and Trumpians, and they don't even engage with it. No, you've destroyed our livelihoods or the way we've chosen to work. We don't want to be regular employees, right? That's the whole reason we're gig workers or we're freelancers. If we wanted to be a regular employee, I could go get a job driving an Amazon van, but I don't want to work 10 hours a day like that. I want to be able to choose my hours and what days I work and how often, right? I want the flexibility that allows me to be a politician at the same time and allows me to come on here and do counterpoint videos. If I was a 10-hour a day Amazon van driver, I wouldn't be able to do all this. I'd be too tired. I'd have to work this schedule around that rather than my work schedule around what I feel is more important long term is the politics in my community.
Mm-hmm. And now, sadly, you're not just gig workers that are being demonized for wanting to earn a living for themselves. People that are self-employed. Or small businesses now, you know what I mean? Small businesses, unless you are deemed an essential business, you're not allowed to operate your business right now. So if you own a car dealership, I saw a story about a guy that owns a few car dealerships in, a city in Wisconsin. And he says, if I'm not able to open up business and conduct business soon, I'm going to lose everything I created in my entire life. And that's awful for some businesses to reflect on, no matter how small or big they may be. If you are the one in charge and have been deemed non-essential by the government, what's going on, then you're not allowed to earn a living for yourself. So a lot of people are affected by this. Teachers now, taxpayers have been paying into the education system for how long now, and then all of a sudden teachers are thrown to the side, kids and students are thrown to the side, parents are thrown to the side, nobody cares. So you're right. The two-party system has merged into one to become imperialistic in its nature. So they only care about control. The Democrats openly have spoken about controlling, healthcare, education, whatever the case may be. Now we're seeing the Republicans say that and speak that out loud. So they are reflective of one another, which should make it more apparent than anyone and ever of why we should make a stand, and how they're hurting our economy is a big red flag, because they are pretty much throwing the future generations under the bus with these $1 trillion bailouts, and pretty much hitting print on on the money, on the currency. So they're inflating the dollar, is pretty much making it valueless. So pretty soon the dollar will be worthless. What will it be good for? Nothing at all. Especially if people aren't allowed to go out there and use their labor to create it. So
Christ created some wealth. Yeah. And the long-term economic damage, there's going to create some long-term emotional damage. There's going to be, I was talking to my counselor the other day, I still see a counselor once a month. And they were talking, she's had an uptick in business. And so there's a lot of people are going to be stressed out. And the longer this goes on, the higher the economic devastation goes, because it's not just that business owner, it's everybody he pays.
Yes.
And then all their families and all that ripple effect is going to go down. And, economic devastation, economic pressures is one of the leading causes of suicide. And we're going to see, it's not just about choosing people dying from the illness. We've got to think about these long-term side effects of our response to it.
And the patients, I mean, I'm pretty sure this is going to increase the suicide rate, people that are suffering from depression, those type of, mental disabilities, etc. Bipolarism, alcoholism is now being openly promoted. You have celebrities drinking and, telling people I've been drinking more, and more people have been drinking more because of it. So you have married couples that are suffering because of it, believe it or not, because they are used to being separate from each other. And that, I guess, creates some bit of comfort for some relationships, because they're not used to being up under each other 24 hours a day,
Not every, me and Christina, we get along just fine being all together all the time, but not every relationship works like that. Not every person works like that, right? Relationships are different. We're all human. We've all got these mass differences. And so that's the reason when you find that person who kind of completes you, right? It works so well. It's because you don't have to struggle with it. You don't have to fight with it. But if you're now all of a sudden you've gotten something that used to work for you, and now all of a sudden it's all different, completely out of your control. I mean, it's one thing if you're kind of in your control and you have to make these changes, but it's all been thrust upon. This change has been thrust upon everybody so quickly, and with so little information kind of backing it up, because we're kind of starting to find out that those early models were way off. And which, if you understand data collection, you understand why they're way off, and you can understand that, okay, they panicked and you don't want to throw them too far under the bus, but at the same time, we do have to hold them accountable for, all right, your things were way off. Well, how did that happen? And let's not let it happen again in the future.
Right. Well, I don't even think we should be paying attention to the virus at all. I think if anything, we should be paying attention to the structure of control that government has been propping up this entire time. Now it's so high that we can barely even see over the wall. Which is why it's caught so many people off guard, and those truth speakers such as myself that have been, sounding the alarm for over a decade now, doing their best to try to tell people what's going on and, beating the drum, are now being thrust to the forefront. We're being called on the front lines because we're more in the know. A lot of people don't know about the forced vaccinations, about the, how FEMA can create these disaster centers. And, it has existed for a long time. So if anything, at this point, we need to start reacting and standing up against what's going on. The devastation to our economy is a big red flag. I'm calling on everyone to join in the May Day protest. It's been going on forever. Look it up, May Day protest. So May Day 2020, we're asking anyone and everyone, out there in the world, don't go to work. If you have an essential job, it's just one day. Make a stand with the rest of us that aren't working and that are being forced not to work. Don't go to work. Don't go to your online school. Don't pay any bills. Don't pay your rent. Don't pay. If you can't pay your rent, then, most likely you're unable to. So those of us that can, make a stand with those also. People, landowners, if you are accepting rent, make a stand against the banks and say, no, I'm not going to charge my tenants right now. We need to get down to the bottom of what's going on, and everybody's hurting financially. So we need to help each other become more prosperous out of this situation.
All right, Nicholas, thank you for joining us. That's about all the time we've got. We greatly appreciate the time with you today.
Thank you. God bless.
All right, everybody else, thank you for watching Counterpoint. You can learn more about issues we talked about at our website, libertariancounterpoint.com. and you can catch us on Facebook and all our other Instagram and all our very other social media pages. I'll get this ending right one of these days. All right, thanks, Nicholas. Goodbye.
My pleasure, and thank you again to you, James Just. May everybody vote for him. Long live liberty.
All right, Ed.
This is Gail Morgan thanking you for watching the Libertarian Counterpoint each Thursday at 8 p.m. Channel 17 on Comcast, on YouTube, and on Facebook. We invite you to come again next week for the Libertarian Counterpoint.